Tonight's episode, part 2 of the interview with William Morgan, CAJI member. We have infiltrated the lodge, folks. Hear it yourself from the lips of a 32nd degree Freemason of the Scottish Rite of the Southern Jurisdiction. Part 2 of our interview with William Morgan, and many of you are wondering if that's his real name. No, it is not. We protect CAJI members. We never tell anyone how many CAJI members we have, where they're at, what their names are, anything. None of that information is given out, not even to other CAJI members. Now, we use the code name or the pseudonym of William Morgan simply because the name William Morgan is significant in the past of the secret society called Freemasonry. William Morgan was murdered by Freemasons after having revealed, printed in a book, some of the secrets of the lodge, and this was done back in the 1800s. Of course, the Fraternity of Freemason denies that they murdered William Morgan. However, their version differs significantly from the official version and from the proof and the evidence that we have spent many hundreds of man-hours digging up, and one of these nights we're going to do a program just entirely on the murder of William Morgan. Will, welcome back to the Hour of the Time.
Thank you, Bill. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm really proud and happy to be here and doing what I'm doing.
You know, I don't think a lot of people realize that you're risking your life by doing this. The oath that you have taken, albeit because they were fraudulent, you thought that you were making an oath to the God of the Bible, and in fact you were making an oath to Lucifer, which nullifies those oaths. But they still, the Brotherhood, the Order, the Illuminati, the Freemasons, could still carry out the threat of those oaths, which is murder. Is that not correct?
Absolutely correct. No matter what I may personally feel about, or what common law or the actual law may view about those oaths as taken, the Masons that are involved consider them to be absolutely applicable to any transgression, and they have been enforced, and the bloody punishments that are part of the oaths have happened to Masons before, and they will happen again, I'm sure.
Now, you are what degree? Let's get that out for the people in case we have some new listeners tonight. What degree are you?
I am a 32nd degree Freemason of the Scottish Rite of the Southern Jurisdiction of the United States.
And what is the official title of that degree?
The official title is the Sublime Prince of the Royal Secret, and that is not only the title of the degree, it is also the title of the ritual that the degree is conferred to. And just to show you how important that is, after going through the ritual and getting the degree conferred upon me, I could neither remember anything sublime or even remember what the secret was that they told me.
Why is it that you couldn't remember the secrets of the degree?
Well, that's a bit of a long story, and I won't go entirely into it, but it started off, the day I was conferred, began at 6 o'clock in the morning, and they just rushed through it. There was no memory work to do, as in the Blue Lodge, where a person has to memorize the ritual and then give it back. You just sit there and received in an audience-like capacity. And when it came to swearing the oath, you merely held up your hand and said, "I do." You also did take that oath on kneeling on one knee, as you did in the Blue Lodge.
Now, we talked yesterday after we recorded the last program that aired, I believe Friday, on WRNO, and this will air on Monday on WRNO. It will air at a different date on WWCR. So if you're listening on WWCR, don't let these dates confuse you. But we talked, and I asked you specifically if there was a part of Freemasonry where you raised your arm to the square, and what was your reply?
Yes, there is a part where you raise your arm to the square. The first time I remember doing that action was in the second degree when it was conferred upon me. You raise your right hand as if you were swearing in. Actually, it is exactly the same position as if you're swearing in a court of law. Your left hand is placed flatly upon the Holy Bible or whatever holy text that, depending on the lodge you're in, and your right hand is held at a right angle with the arm extended, and an actual square, like an engineer square, is held around the elbow of the arm. You're swearing in a square within a square, so to speak, as the ritual says.
Now, if a Freemason were speaking in front of a group of what Masons call the profane, would it be fair to state that if the speaker stated something about when he raised his arm to the square, that this could be a recognition signal to notify other Freemasons in the audience that he was indeed a Freemason?
Knowing what I know, I could hardly see it as anything else. There's no square involved in any other oath swearing ceremony that I've ever heard of, ever, not in a court of law. Only a square is involved in Masonry. It's one of the primary tools that are symbolically referred to in all the ritual of the Blue Lodge.
Now, many of you have heard this statement made by someone that you all listen to, and I want you to make that connection for yourselves. If you can't make that connection for yourself, then there's no need to telling you any more about it anyway. Let's get into some of the ceremonies. How does this start? It begins in the Blue Lodge with the first degree of entered apprentice, and it goes up, and you've actually traversed 32 degrees of initiation. Are there side roads off of this?
Yeah, well, it's a bit difficult. The Blue Lodge is where everything begins, and the Blue Lodge where Mason is initiated at is called the Mother Lodge from that time after, in specific reference to him personally. Now, once you get past the third degree, become a Master Mason in your Blue Lodge, you are able to hold an officer, or hold a chair as an officer inside the lodge, and you can spend up to 10 years going through the chairs and becoming an officer. But after that, you can either go to the Scottish Rite or the Yorkish Rite. There's a fork in the road of Masonry, and the Scottish Rite is by far the most popular and undoubtedly the most powerful.
Now, the York Rite has 7 degrees. Is that true?
True. The highest of which being the Knight Templar degree. For all those people out there who think that the Knights Templar are in no way associated with Masons, you're dead wrong, and you haven't done your homework.
In fact, the Knights Templar, when they first began as an organization on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, were not an order commissioned or ordained or approved or even recognized by any church, much less the Catholic Church, but were, in fact, an order of the mysteries. They began with 7 degrees, and the 7th degree was the highest degree. And later, as they added degrees, when the Knights Templar were persecuted and in fact, many of them were put to death. Others were driven into hiding in other countries. In some of the countries, they just changed their names and continued the order. They eventually reached a number of degrees, which was 33. And I took that right out of a very old textbook on the secret societies, which we'll talk about some in a later program, and we'll get into that. But what is the significance that you've been told of the system of degrees? Why do you have to go through this?
It's considered a road. It's considered a road to quote-unquote illumination. I really believe that it's more of a system of control and self-government. Lodges are pretty unique in America in that they are self-sustaining and self-governing, even with their own bit of enforcement. All lodges have been granted a charter from a Grand Lodge, and every Grand Lodge in this country has been granted a charter from the United States government to operate on its own and enforce its own laws and constitutions. If a police officer or any law enforcement officer walks into a lodge while in session, he not only does he not have arrest power, but that lodge immediately closes.
Now, this is something the American people don't know about. Now, if these are lodges, they're in states, they have nothing to do with the federal government. How could they receive a charter from the federal government saying that they're under their own laws? And how could it be the law enforcement officer would not have the authority to arrest or any of his other authorized duties in a Freemasonic lodge.
It beats the hell out of me, Bill. It's really a bit of a contradiction in terms. You have a government that has actually gone out and given government-type status to a completely and secret and I think subversive organization right under its own nose. The similar thing can be seen in the Mormon Church and in other secret societies that are not nearly so famous as Freemasonry itself. The government has, by granting this charter, I believe, undermined its own stability as a functioning organization.
Well, tell us about this charter again. Tell us again what you said before. I don't want anyone to miss this because it's very important. It shows how a secret government can be formed. It tells that these members of these secret societies literally have diplomatic immunity and can get away with whatever they want to get away with. Not only that, but they have their members sitting in the most powerful posts both within society on local levels and local cities, local counties and state governments, in the higher echelons of the military, and they permeate all the positions of control within the bureaucracy of the federal government. So tell us what this charter is again.
Okay, it's a document put out by the federal government, and it can be any government in the world. To my knowledge, every government in the world has granted that has lodges in it has granted a sovereign charter to the Grand Lodges under its jurisdiction. I really haven't done enough research to speak at length on the nature of the charter or what it exactly implies universally for Freemasonry, but I do know for a fact that a law enforcement officer, and we have many law enforcement officers in our lodge, from state troopers to policemen to military policemen, they're not cops when they walk into the lodge. They leave their power, their badges, and their guns outside, and they do so willingly. That's a pretty good example, but I think the best example comes from the Knights of Malta. And here's another one for you guys out there that haven't done your homework. I'm reading from the glossary of a book entitled Freemasonry, A Celebration of the Craft, which is put out by the craft itself, and it defines Knights of Malta as a Christian Masonic degree based upon the medieval Knights Hospitallers and emphasizing the Christian virtues. Well, you can leave the Christian out of it if you like, but what's interesting about the Knights of Malta is they actually do have diplomatic immunity. As an organization, they can bring goods in and out of this country without going through customs, and they cannot be arrested or they cannot be detained or charged with any crime by any law enforcement officer in the country. They're above sovereign. As far as I know, they're above most government officials that are in the land.
That's a fact, and they actually carry diplomatic passports. I know several people personally who are members of the Knights, the Sovereign Order, the Military Knights of Malta, and they carry diplomatic passports and they began as citizens of the United States of America. Now, what happens when a police officer, and most police officers we have discovered, or at least the ones who make law enforcement a career, and most, if not all, judges sitting upon benches in this country are Freemasons. What happens when you're speeding down a highway and you're stopped by a law enforcement officer? What happens when he sees the Masonic emblem on your windshield?
Usually what you have is a direct turnaround in attitude. I myself am a young man. I get hassled by cops a little bit. It seems like they always have cop an attitude when they pull me over, but when they see the Masonic square and compasses on my car, and most importantly when I flip out my dues-paying card, a card that all dues-paying Masons carry, the police officer, well, let me just put it this way, I've never once got a speeding ticket or a traffic ticket or have even been harassed in any way when they have known that I am a Mason. It just has not happened. That is my personal experience.
So the justice system in this country doesn't really work, and Freemasons are in effect exempt from the laws that the rest of us are supposed to follow. Is that true?
Yeah, that could be probably construed as accurate, Bill. Although I disagree, it does work. It just doesn't work the way most people think it works. It works for them and with them and around them, and it works on the rest of you.
That's right. Now, what happens when a Freemason goes into court against someone who's not a Freemason and the judge is a Freemason?
Okay, well, you have a very subtle interaction that goes on. All Masons are taught secret signs and secret words and secret phrases and this is some of the most